मोरमोळीत फुलांचे होय कुटिया संसाराचे नेकेत्र उदेतीचे मोडचो तोसाचे बाग उर्बेचे मोग करणाराचे सोबोर संसारार दुसरे आसचे ना गोवा वचले आमचे तो गोंयां येता खोशी जावन वेता गोंयचे खरें सूख भोगूंक पावता गोंयच्या लोकांचो मोग ताका मेवता ह्या खोऱ्या मोगान तान मोग निवता वा गोंयकारांचे मोरमोळीत फुलांचे ह्या संसाराचे केत्र उदेतीचे मोडचो तोसाचे बाग उर्बेचे मोग करणारांचे सोबोर संसारार दुसरे आसचे ना गोवा वचले आमचे खरें सूख भोगूंक पावता गोंयच्या लोकांचो मोग ताका मेवता ह्या खोऱ्या मोगान तान मोग निवता वा गोंयकारांचे मोरमोळीत फुलांचे कुटिया संसाराचे केत्र उदेतीचे मोडचो तोसाचे बाग उर्बेचे मोग करणाराचे सोबोर संसारार दुसरे आसचे ना गोवा वचले आमचे फ्रॉम गोवा विथ लव गोवा विथ लव गोवा विथ लव फ्रॉम गोवा विथ लव गोवा विथ लव
Wir sind hier, wir alle, wir alle. Wir sind hier, wir alle, wir alle. Wir sind hier, wir alle, wir alle. Wir sind hier, wir alle, wir alle.
Goa. Yes. How do we think of this word? Is this something in our minds? Is this a place? Is this some music? We have a lot of parties called Goa parties. What is this all about? A question that has been within our minds for a long time, for every context. So, we're going to be talking a little bit about this place, state of mind, etc., and what this is all about. Today, we actually speak about something which comes from a very deep side of the fence, which is going on in our lives every one of these days. We have a story about a gentleman who's been going from one place to another just to find a party. Sounds like a very simple affair. Well, this is actually the story of a person who has been partying with the fellow men from other countries, just like all of us did back in Goa, a place where everybody goes and has a very good time. Incidentally, if we try and figure out the context of Goa, there are many things that can totally confuse us. Totally. So there will be very different levels of understanding this concept. And let's start with one of these stories coming from all over the world about this gentleman who's trying to find a party. And he finds some friends from the other side of the fence, which means from the other country actually. So he finds some people from the other side of the country, or from another country rather, and they basically go and have a good time and party. Then what happens is suddenly, we are living in a very real world, and there seems to be some political interruption between the two countries. And let's just imagine that they built a fence between both these countries, okay? This country, and then there is something in between. Now the concept of countries has been agreed on by just human beings. So it's this space and that space, and now the place where they were partying was across the fence. So what did they do? They found ways of going across the fence and partying, even when their countries started to have a war. So now, you see, this is where the world turns upside down, and we need to understand there are a lot of things that are going upside down amongst us, and one of them is the concept of where we are understanding aggression and violence and where it is going. Okay, so we grow up, and we grow up as children, and let's get back to the story before we die out on this aspect, which is very important because they tried to party instead and kept on partying even as the countries were at war. Now, they've been partying and the countries are at war, and the party just never stops, which happens to be the name of this show. Okay, so the name of the show today is The Party Never Stops. Now, why we're talking about this is because we need to understand who these people are and which regions they come from, which will actually be told to you right at the end of this podcast, show, radio show, whatever you think of it. But something that you're listening to and something that may give you some very nice comic relief. Yeah. So now thinking about the other parts of Goa, we are thinking about what is this word all about. First, we came up with a song right at the beginning of the show. Now, this song has been written by a gentleman called Wilson, and he is a poet slash actor slash director, etc., from a place which is a state called Goa in India. Now, according to the description by a gentleman from another part of the world, somewhere in Europe, Goa is what is a place which was ruled by the Portuguese for a long time. So that's really different from the mainstream of India. That's what he was asked in the interview, and that's what he ends up saying. Of course, that's also because it's the birthplace of a genre of music which was played there for the first time on this planet, amongst many more things which happened for the first time on this planet in that place, and many movements which started for the first time on this planet from in that place, which we will get to know in short time as this podcast goes on. Now, getting back to what we were talking about with the historical context of this place, which is thought about from one person's perspective and another person's perspective, all over from 1,000 kilometers away from the other side of the global fence. So the first song was by Wilson, and it was the name of his second music album, which happens to be the music that comes from this state, from Goa. Okay, so we have now for us this music that played right at the beginning, and it was called From Goa with Love, where he's just talking about his place where the whole world comes to, and the fact that he's very, very happy about the fact that the whole world comes to his nice, sweet place, and he'd like to share his space with the world. So that's exactly how it all began for Goa. And a lot of people from different parts of the world came here and shared a lot of space and found a lot of freedom and found a lot of happiness, so to speak. So as things went on, this concept of going on the beach and hanging out, which can happen in a place where there is a beach, also took place. Now, this was going on now many, many, many years ago. Okay, so this was like way back when some people from other parts of the world entered that space for the first time, was somewhere in the 60s. And then in the 70s, and then in the 80s. So it went on, and there were many people gathering there from different parts of the world. And there was a small, peaceful beach and some very nice people there. This can also be seen in a very nice documentary called The Last Hippie Standing, wherein there are some clips from people who actually came in this time of the year, in this time of the era, that's somewhere in the 60s, to Goa. So that happened, and as things went on, you see, this concept of Goa developed into a very different thing. And of course, then we have the present times. So, to understand what exactly was the present times, we had to go all the way back to see what it was like previously. Yeah? Now, as we went back and heard the previous tracks, we also heard another song from a guitar player from Goa, a musician, someone who's been making music for a long, long time. And before we go on to the story from this musician, it's very important to understand that this entire concept of being in a place and developing a type of spirit is Goa. Because apparently a lot of people went from Goa to different parts of the world, and they took a lot of the spirit from this place to the different parts of the world where they went. That was like South America, Europe, Africa, you name it. They wanted to recreate Goa in that space because they went and had the same thing there and said, oh yeah, we can do the same thing in our house. Super, let's just do this. So then let's have a Goa gathering or a Goa party. And today we have many people who don't even know the place exists as a state, really, in reality. So it is actually referred to a place called Goa party or Goa music, wherein they are referring to music which was actually born in this place, physical place, And it's quite funny because you're standing in a bus and then there's some just like random people at the side and they're just standing and they're saying things like, I really hate Goa. And you're wondering why is this person who's probably never been in their life to this place saying this? And then you understand, oh, they're actually talking about the Goa music. It's the music that they're talking about, this Goa party genre thing. So as you can understand, like I was telling you earlier, it's quite confusing when you talk about Goa. You can get like totally confused with this aspect. But that's only if you understand so many very different perspectives about the one same word Goa. Now, if you're sitting back in Goa, you also probably don't understand what is going on because you're thinking it's a very nice place that I'm coming from and everybody knows my culture and my fugdis and my theatre and many things that go on in Goa. I'm afraid that just may not be totally true, because it is known from many different perspectives, and from many different perspectives it has been defined so. And hence, let's talk about a gentleman from here who is actually making a remark about this place. So we made a couple of notes as to what exactly this person was saying about Goa, and he says it's a small state in India, which is a little different from India given that it's been colonized by the Portuguese. He says Goa plays a very big role in spirituality. Wait, let's just repeat this again. Goa plays a very big role in spirituality. Now, this is something that we need to understand may not be absolutely known to anybody from the actual place Goa, a resident of Goa, or someone who claims to be part of that land and that soil and son of the soil and things like this. Of course, DNA might say otherwise, but yes, it's quite possible that the persons from Goa actually physically there would never know about this aspect that this person is talking about. So just to get these things clear and understand many more things, let's get into understanding what Goa is all about. Slowly as we go by. Okay, there are many shows coming up with this, I'm sure. And we're just going to go on and on and on. But I'm sure there will be some very interesting topics to talk about, especially like this person, because he's talking about Goa and he's saying that it's a spiritual connection. He's saying it's a spiritual connection for the whole world. Now, this gentleman is called Hans Kusto. Okay, and to understand the depth of what he's talking about, we would really need to understand what exactly goes on in this place called Goa and what is the Goa party and what's the connection. Is there something called a Goa party which is also in Goa? Yes. A Goa party actually originated from Goa and then went all over the world, just like we were talking about some time back. So this is how Goa was created, but by nobody really from Goa themselves, because there are still people in Goa who actually are clueless about this perspective of subculture that took place under their very noses. but they actually were not really part of that circuit or that area geographically speaking, and hence they were not so much in connect with this understanding of what exactly is going on there and why there are so many people coming from different parts of the world with different types of colorful skin, and they were all having a good time there. And then suddenly there was a lot of things that turned up in the media about this idea of parties that were taking place in the beach and in faraway areas in Goa itself. Now, this has been going on actually for a long time. This has been going on ever since the 60s. And like I was telling you at one point of the story, there were these people who came in that time and were simply walking around the beaches, doing nothing because there was no electricity as well. And since there was no electricity there, they decided to actually walk around and do nothing and sit on the beach because there was nice moonlight every time there was full moon. Now that actually led to something called the creation of a full moon gathering, which is called a full moon party. Now, you see, that could happen anywhere in the world where people could gather because of the energies of the moon on that day, because of all of this energies that come together because of the moon and the stars, and everybody is connected through physics and astrophysics and all forces of science as well. We could guess that this could happen anywhere in the world. But how it happened here was it just kept on growing because there was not too much of place. So there was just like few beaches. So everybody would go to the same beaches and the gathering became bigger and bigger. And you see, it got to a point where once you're on the beach and you're with the nice moonlight, you'd rather just get some music there in the house and, not in the house, but on the beach. And have a couple of tunes. And since we didn't have electricity, maybe the guitars would help. Super. So then a landlord, a late friend of mine, also called Augusto Braganza, he passed away some couple of years ago, and he's the gentleman who actually was instrumental in giving them speakers. He actually lent a couple of speakers to some people on the beach who were like music band people who were very voluntarily coming and playing there for many people on the beach, since many people were gathering. So there was a subculture taking place there in the underground just because of people gathering on the beach. And that actually catapulted into finally getting some electric connection at some point, and having some speakers, and then having some psychedelic electric guitar and live music to begin with. And that then had the influence of modern technology and time, which basically brought in electronic music. From the 80s onwards, the synthesizer world in Europe and America and London and everywhere was booming. And there was house music all over the place. And here there was more experiments going on that couldn't just probably find itself out in the space because of a lot of commercial music, or like music that was getting a lot commercial and making a lot of money for a lot of people. So people really didn't want to open up and experiment with many more things, because there was already an experiment with beat music, and that was already house music. That led to a lot of musicians going underground and experimenting on their own ways. Now, here is where we would like to take a small break and listen into something which is very connected to a story that we spoke about earlier. But let's listen into this first, because this is a nice edit. It's an edit mix been made by a couple of musicians put together, as well as yours truly. And it's made for a reason. It's made so that some people do understand that as you come together, you don't really you can think of this in the world of duality and say either you could be fighting or you could be friends. Well, you could be a lot of things in between as well. So it's not just that. But if you don't want to go down the extreme edge and you want to make something nice together, then you can make some music together always, even if you don't have instruments. But even if you have some instruments and if you have access to computers and things like this, you have a world out there to please. And that's exactly what happened as we made this thing. And we put it out. We put it out just for the fact that something positive also needs to go out as a perspective, because this perspective exists. Just like the story that I was telling you some time back of this person who was going to find the party. So now, coming back to that story just a bit, just to let you know what was going on there, was as he was looking for finding a party, he was finding that there is a wall being built between two regions because of some political things which were going on between two regions. And they couldn't go on either side to party, but they were still partying together, people from this side and friends from the other side as well. So as things went on, the party just never stopped. The important understanding here is the fact that no matter how strange things can go, there are things of celebration that don't really need to stop. And if you think about it in terms of history, if you check the statistics, you won't find any. So this is why this show was created, just to let you know that there are these things that went on in spite of the fact that there was even war taking place in that same zone. Now here is another detour to another story. Okay, this is a story about another war that was also going on, and as soon as this place got bombed and the entire place was in total rubbles, some friends of mine and me got sent a video. Now, just to give you another background, I'm coming from the world of understanding where things are and how things are like they are in the world. And this world has a lot of social media content. So when you actually look into social media, you can get a lot of things from all over the place. But someone can actually send you a video of what is happening with them in their own locality or in their own spaces right around them. And then one of these friends was actually making a party in the middle of all of the rubbles about a week after that place got bombed. And they were doing this with total, like, how do you say, you don't want to use the word carelessness, because it's not really carelessness. It's just about an attitude that, okay, something is going on and we just want to have a good time because we don't want to have anything to do with this. So before we go on to this track made by these musicians put together to put in something positive and understand what was the most positive element. The most positive element was the fact that in spite of people having war between each other, there's always still very nice things going on. And these things are so much that we actually just tend to see something which, let's say, is flashed a little bit too much in our faces. So instead of always looking at those perspectives, there are other perspectives to look at, like this word called Goa that has like millions of things and millions of ways to understand it. And how one person understands it in one part of the world is totally different from another person understanding it in a different part of the world. Although in one part of the world, this person might claim that he's actually from that place. I am from Goa, one may say. But the understanding of this place is very different from many people who are not in Goa, but also understand Goa as what it is. Now, you can't say that one reality is correct and the other one is not, because both reality coexisted. I mean, they were all existing at the same time. There was very nice relations, and at the same time, there was some political turbulences going on, which could create a butterfly effect. So, we cannot discount the fact that there are these other perspectives around. And just to get that right, let's play this track now, okay? Just to understand the connection of how these people got together and actually did this track from three different, what we call countries, another division made by human minds. For the sake of administration, though. Very well made, very nicely made. But like you're saying, in these days, there have been these movements in parties that come from Goa, or what are called Goa parties, wherein nobody brings in their flags and things like this, and nobody talks about where they come from, because the understanding was nobody really created Goa as a person. There was no one person, not even an Indian or a Goan, that actually created Goa, because there were just people from all over the world coming and hanging at the beach. And there were maybe one or two Goans just straying around in those circuits, but really there was not so much of connection with so many people as the entire scene was developing. And then there is another very nice story about the Anjana Chai ladies, which also should be mentioned. But before that, let's see what this one sounds like. Yes, as we just listened what was going on, we figured out that this was a song that came from a collaboration of musicians. Well, this is what we can also do instead of fighting, was one of the spirits that this song was made about. It was made by a trio, and one of them is a musician, and he plays an instrument called the oud. Okay, so these stories are all hinting about a certain things which can be revealed at a certain point in time in the show, of course, within this hour. But as for someone who's been listening from the very beginning, it is just a small touch up of what's going on with this word Goa, which is a whole lot of things. Okay, so apart from those stories which are coming there, we were also talking about this friend who's basically going over the fence, and his friends are also going over this fence and that fence, and basically the same fence because it's built by some political turbulences. And then there was even war between their countries, and basically these guys are still partying, busy partying, okay? And they've been using DJs of each side, and they've been having a great time. And there's another party next week as well going on, even as we speak. So just to let you know, then there is this very main concept about the show, because the show is called this time The Party Just Never Stops. So to get some order, like my throat, for the entire thing that has been spoken from the first time till right now, we're just talking about exactly what Goa is all about and the different perspectives. And when people from there actually think of this particular geographical place or space as their own, it has a total different meaning and context for somebody who's been there and spent the best times of their lives there and actually claims to now be from there, or actually has taken a part or that place or the name from that place to their own countries and spaces and created a Goa there now. Okay, so this has basically happened in forms of a party structure, and the spirit and celebration that was taking place where it all happened in Goa, given that a particular type of music was given birth there. This went on all over the world and got spread out, and now they have something called Goa Music, Goa Parties, which is basically psytrance music, and parties which were all culturally developed from this place in Goa. Okay, so we're trying to understand how it is different for somebody else from their perspective to also claim a space or a state or a geographic space or a state, and how it is for the person from that very geographic space to understand this thing, because sometimes they're going like, what is this guy talking about? Well, technically this person who's talking about this also happens to be from that geographic space. Well, that is where a belongingness can be identified with, in case there is some sort of identity crisis that you have to understand yourself and figure out, okay, what am I, who am I, where am I? And things are always linked with your language and your place and things like this. Well, actually, for some it is not really so, although it should be so. It's a very nice ideal sense to have, and even if you're not linked with it, there's always time to link with it then. Because it is actually ideally so for everybody. So even if it is not so really, then you can actually link with an ideal self and see how it feels like, without first just wanting to close your doors to that understanding. Because it's a very clear understanding. That's a perspective that has been seen and used and looked at before. Just like the concept of Goa that went all over the world. So coming back to what we are speaking about with terms of this word, let's not get very serious here, because this is not really a very serious topic. Now come on, okay, it's just a matter of things just going on here. But then suddenly comes up this gentleman, he says Goa plays a very big role for spirituality. Now, spirituality can mean many things for many people, and it should mean many things for many people as it can mean many things for, as long as it means something, as long as anything means something. So when we talk about spirituality, it would be nice to at least talk about, okay, how someone has been nice. Maybe this is an understanding of a closer understanding of the word of spirituality, or maybe you think of being nice first and a nicer person or something of this sort, and then you understand the next dimension after you are understanding yourself as a nice person of this dimension of spirituality, okay, where you will elevate yourself and probably disappear into nothingness. Well, I wish that is also a nice experience for anybody who goes through that. But we were talking about Anjuna chai ladies. Yes, this is another detour and another story which comes into this journey of thinking and listening about things from Goa. As usual, we can also have some background music as this goes on, no? And there was a very favorite song we kept on playing in the background. We'll probably play that again and just have some nice sounds, hopefully. Well, as we were talking about things like this, we were talking about the Anjuna chai ladies because we were talking about places where people were just coming together and having this sort of a meeting place where the full moon was shining and everybody would come together because there was no electricity during those days. So it's so bright and so nice that you would just like to go and spend some night time on the beach because otherwise you're always spending daytime on the beach. So if you understand this very cleverly, you see it is wanting to get out of the routine. And that is also something that is getting us out of our, in these days it's called cozy zone, like you're coming into your comfort zone. So yes, as we understand of coming in and out, that would help the mind reflect better and probably even experience things better rather than getting hardened up in certain spaces and remaining there. As we move on to talking about the Anjuna chai ladies, we were talking about these moonlight experiences that people were coming to and experiencing on the beach. They were having a nice time and there were some musicians coming there and then they were playing and there was some electronic music then beginning to happen. And in all of that, let's talk about the people from that place. Now, a very nice connection is the story of the Anjuna chai ladies. These were ladies from the village, simply put, who were looking at these foreign people or people from foreign countries to them who were coming to the beaches and even going naked and just doing their thing and having a good time. And they were not really understanding how people from thousands of miles away have a good time. So when they saw people smiling and having a nice vibe around themselves, as all humans can most definitely perceive and see, plainly put, they were very happy, but they were thinking they're a little bit too thin, they just go to be on the beach and oh my god, this is so far away and we need to go to the main city and buy our groceries and then we eat food every day when we come back to the beach because the main city is far away from the beach. And what do these people do all day and night here and then they have no food? And what if they just have problems with starvation and they just fall down and fall ill? Maybe we should just go and help them. And the people from this village started going all the way to the beach, putting a mat there, a lamp, and giving them biscuits and chai and small things to eat and things like this. And then came in these things where we must understand this as an idea of expression from our society. You see, we have to be inclusive about everything because we cannot close our eyes maybe to things which really exist in front of us. And there are things like when small animals die and children have to be explained what is death, for instance, might be a situation. But not to think about it as a situation, but to actually think about it might be a good idea, because then you can actually understand how people can get connected to the same things that you are connected with. Like, for example, a child watching someone smoke a cigarette or something in his hand and is just looking at this action of something being in someone's hand. And this has been popularized by this concept of cigarette smoking. And then now we are into rolling tobacco and many other things. And then there was also an understanding that marijuana can be medically used, and now it is all accepted, and now we have a different idea of this entire understanding of things. So when we think about such things, we have to understand how we get our children to close our eyes and not see when someone is smoking up something or smoking something. Now, it doesn't matter whether he's smoking up something or he's smoking something, but how does it feel to make somebody else understand what this phenomenon is all about, something that you think you have understood? Because if you think you have understood it, then it should be no problem to actually explain it to the child very simply. So then understanding why people indulge in things like smoking or things like substance use is another huge area that comes into play when we talk about the Goa party. And long story short, we could actually bring that in another part of the show, because right now we were just talking about how this entire concept of Goa rolls around people's heads and how people are connected with it in a very lighter sense. It's nice to keep it nice and light and figure out what the Anjana chai ladies were actually doing, because what they were actually doing was they were saying these people are going really thin, man, on the beach. Maybe we should just go and help them out. So they went and they gave them some things to eat, and then they became part of this ritualistic dance session. Now, this ritualistic dance session bit, which came from the full moon party gatherings, simply is the connection to the spirituality, is the connection to the academic point of view of spirituality here in this context. And it has also been written about academically and spiritually, and proved in many ways and many regions that this has this connection. Just like what somebody was saying in a different part of this world. Now, just for you to understand what was going on was in this different part of this world, when somebody was talking about this place called Goa, the quote that he was saying was, this is a space that has a lot to do with spirituality. Just for you to know, this gentleman has actually never been to Goa himself. However, the paradox is not to think of it just like that, oh, he's not been to Goa and how can he say that? However, many more have not been to Goa but consider Goa as what they consider Goa to be. So they consider it a Goa party, and they consider it Goa music, and they have been going by these Goa parties for many parts of their lives and many years of their lives, and listening to this Goa music for many years of their lives. So they're understanding from a totally different perspective. Okay, and here is a gentleman who actually found out a little bit more about Goa and also understood what was going on there, and that is why we come to this connection of the chai ladies being there and feeling a little bit of care for the people and wanting to actually just reach out and feed the people some food and maybe make them feel nice, So that was all that was wanting to be done, and finally they ended up with that, where we understand that there was basically a lot of ritualistic dancing taking place there. Now, the word ritualistic has been used there because this was happening at a regular interval, and that became like almost part of your routine. So when that becomes part of your routine, you can almost call it ritualistic because that's how it was considered, and it's still considered so, in many parts of this world. So now we understand where the spirituality connects with Goa. To tell you more would be lovely, but it's been a lot of talk already, and it's nice to probably just lie down and relax and listen to a little bit more of what has been made and specially created to be made for especially so that you can understand how this has come to life. Because when the musicians created this track, they were actually talking about how we can put something positive, and what influenced them to put something positive has a huge connection with this idea of spirituality. So you see, this idea of spirituality and wanting to be nice to people somehow connected in some way and through some dimension to this idea of Goa, and now people talk of it as Goa but with very different perspectives and totally different ideas, and it's still, by all means, it's still Goa, So what we are going to understand is something else, but right now we are going to go ahead and play the song which we actually created for this reason, and we hope you have a lovely time listening to this because it's specially created for that. It's something which has been created so that musicians can actually play along, to be very honest. So here's what's going on. You can actually pick up your instrument and simply jam along. Have a lovely one. It's been a lovely tune in this time, and a lot of stuff which will be cleared out next time to make things much more smoother. We were talking about these two friends from different parts of the world. Yes, they are from the two warring countries from right now as we understand it, and as we understand the the name of the show. Whatever it is, the party just never stops.